Hey there Vikings, welcome back to the playthrough. We are on episode 15 now, and at the end of our last session we had just returned back from a farming session of the Black Forest. We had spent a bit of time in some burial chambers that we found. We also left one of them about half complete, which I'm going to leave for the time being. We don't necessarily need to go back there. We have enough settling cores to get started with our smeltery and our smelter and our charcoal kiln. That's one of the things I was saying towards the end of the previous session as well. I kept calling it a smeltery. It's not a smeltery, it's a smelter. You could probably call it that as well. I'm not sure if that's a real word. I'm assuming it is, but yeah, I was misnaming the item because it's a smelter. So yeah, we have built that out the front of our house here with the charcoal kiln. Also got our bees and our boars. And since our last session, I have done a bit of research on a few things, and thanks to a commenter on one of our previous episodes, I have learned that we don't need to constantly feed our boars all the time, so the hundreds of raspberries I've been throwing in there aren't necessarily needed. There's two reasons why you're going to feed your tame animals. The main one is that you want them to breed. So if you capture some boars and you want to make a bit of a boar farm so that you can harvest the meat and the leather scraps, you need to feed them for that. That does help for breeding. But you do also need to feed them to give them a passive health regen. But if you don't feed them for a while, so let's say you decide to not feed them for a few days and you come back and they haven't lost any health and stuff like that, then you don't need to keep feeding them. So yeah, what I'd probably say is just once every few days, or if your base has been attacked or something like that, if you notice a few of the animals you've tamed have got missing health, then it might be worth feeding them. But yeah, you don't have to worry too much about disappearing for a few days, coming back, and then all of your animals have died because you haven't fed them. That's apparently that's not a part of the game. I've done a bit of research into it as well. I did look it up, and from what I could find, there's nothing in the guides or the wiki or anything that says that animals will die if they're not fed. So yeah, fortunately enough for us, we can start saving the raspberries. We have managed to keep a stack of 50 in the food chest, but the majority of ones I've gathered over the past several episodes have all been chucked into the pen and then disappeared about a session later. So yeah, we're going to start keeping those a bit more, so we've got a decent supply of them. And yeah, we're just going to gather some wood and crack on with a few housekeeping things. We've got a few things I want to build. We are also hoping to go back to the Black Forest at some point, that little biome that's right next to where we are. Where our base is. We are hoping to go back there and to gather some of the ore, so some more tin and some copper. We are going to need to smelt that down and start making things with it very soon. And I will say that the amount of time you have to put into farming the minerals and farming the ores it's quite a lot of time, because it is a bit of a slow process to get started with. There's a couple of ways you can speed it up, but yeah. So we'll have to crack on with that as soon as possible and try and get it done as quick as possible, because we don't want to spend too long doing it. Now, the reason why I am out gathering a bunch of wood, well, there's two reasons actually. The first reason is that we are going to extend the boar pen. We want to have more boar in there. So in order to have more boar whilst breeding, we're going to need to have a bigger pen for them, give them a bigger area to breed in. The other reason is that just before we came out here, I had put some wood into the charcoal kiln, and that is now producing coal for us on a regular basis. And the biggest piece of advice I can give, especially when you're at this stage, when you've just started your mining and smelting part of the Black Forest, you are going to need a lot of coal in order to smelt a lot of bars. And you're going to need a lot of coal throughout the majority of your playthrough. There are several different types of ores and bars and stuff that you're going to be smelting, so you will need a lot of coal. There are two different types of smelter. We've got the first one. There is a second one that will come in a few biomes time, and you still need coal for that, so there isn't a different type of coal. There may be something different with the Ashlands, but as far as I'm aware, it's all the same. So you are going to need a lot of coal over the course of a playthrough. So yeah, I would usually say always have a charcoal kiln built. You don't have to keep it filled all the time. There are times where you don't have to be mining and bringing ores back so you can smelt them, but you are going to need a lot of coal. Just to give you a kind of a brief overview, if you want to go into the detail on the maths behind it. Let's say you want 200 bits of bronze. In order to make 200 bits of bronze, you're going to need 400 bits of copper and 200 bits of tin, which is 600 ores. And in order to smelt those 600 ores, because it takes 2 bits of coal to smelt one piece of ore into a bar, you're going to need 1,200 bits of coal to smelt those 600 ores into bars to then make into the bronze. So, yeah, for 1 bar of bronze, you need 3 bars, 2 copper, 1 tin. So you are going to need a lot of coal. So that's six bits of coal for 1 bit of bronze. So, yeah, you need a lot of coal over the course of a playthrough. So, one of the biggest recommendation I can make is just constantly keep it filled. You don't have to do it all the time. Like I said, you don't have to have it always filled, like every single day you're coming out and checking it all the time. Just when you're playing it, if you play for an hour, just fill it up a few times over that hour. Say you decide to go out and farm some stuff and then come back, fill it up before you leave. When you get back, gather all that coal, fill it up again. There you go, nice and easy. Obviously, you are going to need a lot of wood to do that as well. It takes 25 bits of wood at a time, does the kiln. So you can have 25 going at once. I think they pop out once every 10-15 seconds. So, yeah, they do go for a while. There is one sneaky little trick you can do, and you can do this with a smeltery as well, which is that, let's say it's getting close to nighttime and you're thinking about going to sleep. Fill your smelter and your charcoal kiln to the brim. So fill them up completely full and then immediately go to sleep, because they will work over the course of your sleeping time, as the timing of them being produced is based on the timing in the game. So if you're sleeping for majority of an evening, if you go to bed as soon as it starts going dark and you sleep until the morning, let's just say that's about 12 hours, that you'll probably wake up the next morning and all of the smelting and charcoal kiln, like coal producing, will be done. So that is a quick way of doing it if you're going to sleep through the night. Can speed it up a little bit, and then obviously put them both on before you go out exploring somewhere, so that when you get back it's all done. So you don't have to be stood there waiting for it. It's not like the taming. You don't have to be stood right next to it waiting for them to be finished. But you will need a lot of them. So just a couple of little tricks that I've learned that you can do to not have to sit there and painfully wait for them to finish. But there will be times where you will have to sit there and wait for them. Say like when we first start making bronze and producing it and start making tools out of it, we are going to have to sit and wait for it, because I want to wait before I've got, say, like the next level of tools, so like a bronze pickaxe and a bronze axe and stuff like that. I'm going to want those before we go back to farm it some more. So yeah, it is going to be a bit of a... There are going to be times you're going to have to sit and wait for it, sadly. Okay, so for now we are just going to head over to this Black Forest biome to the west of our camp. Start gathering some copper. We are going to need some copper for a few initial bits that we're going to need before we start doing a proper big farm of like ores and stuff. It's one of the things that I've been, like, bits of advice that I usually give when it comes to playing Valheim, and this one in particular, especially for the Black Forest, it's got me torn a little bit, because for every other biome after the Black Forest, I would always say, when you're doing your initial mineral and ore gathering and smelting and stuff like that, when you've got your first few bars, the main things you should always focus on building first are your upgrades for your crafting tables and your cooking stations and stuff like that. Those are the main things you should go for first. You'll get far more benefits, or much more benefit, from the crafting table upgraded sooner, rather than having that brand new sword or that helmet or anything like that. I would always say go for the upgrades first. It's just a priority system. That way you can then pick and choose what you need after that, and you don't have to go out and farm huge amounts. But with the Black Forest, I would say there's a few pieces you'll want before doing that, which will make farming the initial bits of your ores and stuff a lot quicker and easier. Those bits are the the bronze axe, the bronze pickaxe, and the cart. Now the first thing you should make is the cart. I would always say make that first. The reason why is that it's really quick and easy to make. All you need is 1 bronze bar to turn into 20 bronze nails, and then you only use 10 of those nails with 20 bits of wood, and that makes you your cart. Your cart has a much larger inventory than yourself, and it can also carry a lot more in terms of weight, and you can also attach the cart to yourself and pull it around, so it is a lot easier than having to run back and forth constantly with 20 to 25 bits of ore on you and having to go back and forth constantly. But there's a couple of things about the cart you need to be aware of. First of all, the cart does get more cumbersome and more difficult to pull around the higher the weight of the items that you've got in there. So if you've got 10 stacks of copper and 5 stacks of tin, you are going to struggle to pull that cart around, especially up hills and over rocks and stuff like that. And that is the other thing as well. Any of the small bushes, the saplings for trees, and small clumps of stone in the floor, they are going to be a pain in the backside to pull the cart over. So you are going to have to be very picky and choosy as your path that you take back home. And you also want to avoid being anywhere near the coast, as soon as the cart hits water, if it starts going further and further into the water to the point where you can't push it out or flip it over or attach it to yourself, you will lose everything in the cart. So yeah, you have to be really picky on your path that you take back. So just a few things to be aware of with the carts. You will see us using it a few times in this playthrough, and I'll explain it a bit more there. But yeah, just to get started, and then obviously, sorry, before we continue on, and then with the bronze pickaxe and the bronze axe, you are going to need quite a lot of bronze to make those. I think about 15 pieces in total, and you are also going to need some other bits of wood. So yeah, there's other types of wood that you're going to need in order to make the pickaxe, which you'll need the axe for first. So I would always say make the cart first, get your first bronze, and make some nails with it, and then focus on getting the axe and then the pickaxe. The pickaxe will need a specific type of wood that you can get from pine trees in the Black Forest. I'm pretty sure you can knock the pine trees down with a flint axe, but getting a bronze axe will make it a lot quicker and easier. Okay, so one thing we're doing right now is probably the worst thing you could be doing when you're first making your forays into the Black Forest, which is mining at night time with no cover, no campfires or anything. This is a silly idea. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I think I just really wanted to get some copper. But this is the reason why. As you can see, we're being attacked by multiple Grey Dwarfs. There's even one of the Grey Dwarf variants with them as well, which is the Grey Dwarf Shaman, or Shaman. Now, the Grey Dwarf Shaman has two different types of attacks, as well as the standard melee attack. The first one is the one you just saw there, which is the green poison spray that he does in front of him. That will poison you over time. It doesn't do a huge amount of damage, but it can stack up if you're being attacked by multiple Grey Dwarfs as well. So I would recommend avoiding that. You can sidestep or dodge roll it. If you try and block, you will still get poisoned, so don't try and block it. The other thing they do is they throw the green sparks in the air, which then kind of fall down around them. That is an area of effect, heal over time effect, that he puts on himself and Grey Dwarfs that are nearby. So with the Shaman, I definitely recommend as soon as you see those green eyes or the antlers on his head, take him down as soon as possible, especially if you're fighting trolls. Well, you know, I don't think it affects trolls. I haven't tried that. But especially if you're fighting the larger variants of them, which I'm really hoping we don't see in this little session here, but we might. Because if you're fighting a large group of them and you've only damaged a few of them, he will heal them up. It's not a instant heal and it's not a large heal over time, but it's moderate, so it will heal up some of the damage you've done to them. So take him down as soon as possible. And there is also a second variant, which is larger and has red eyes. Oh, speak of the devil, and he shall appear. This guy, the Grey Dwarf Brute. Sorry, they're more orange eyes, not red. Now, the Grey Dwarf Brute is taller than most Grey Dwarfs. He's about the same height as the Shaman. If you were to include the antlers, he's tougher and he carries a stone club. But you can parry him. And that is his only attack, is that kind of overhead swing with the club that he's doing. That's his only attack. He's not too dangerous. The only thing I would recommend with him is don't take too many of his hits at once. It will stack up with the amount of damage he can do. Parrying him is fairly straightforward. You can block him as well. Oh, ow, he hit us there and did about 20 odd damage, so he can do a fair amount of damage to you. Just don't let him hit you over and over. That's the only thing about the Brute. He does a lot of damage, but you can kill him quite quickly as well if you parry or block. Now, the thing with Shaman and Brute is that they both have a chance of dropping the Ancient Seeds as well as the Grey Dwarf Nests that you can find. So you will want to kill a few of those in order to get enough Ancient Seeds to summon the Elder. As I said when we first mentioned it, I don't know exactly how many you need to summon the Elder, so that is something we will have to check when we actually go and fight him. But yeah, those are your two Grey Dwarf variants, other than the standard Grey Dwarfs and the Greyling babies, or the younger brothers, whatever you want to call them. Those are your four different types of Grey Dwarfs, and they can be very frustrating. The reason why they're frustrating, as I was mentioning at the start, is that because we're mining at nighttime, we have a much higher chance of groups of them attacking us, and that is because the sound we make whilst mining is travelling, and it attracts the patrols that are wandering nearby, and I actually think that it will actually cause an increased amount of Grey Dwarfs to spawn nearby. I actually think that when you're mining in the Black Forest at nighttime, it will cause packs of them to spawn nearby. And we haven't yet got to the stage where we can avoid having to mine at nighttime altogether. So What you could do is you could plan to have a couple of days where you're going to mine in the Black Forest, and as soon as you wake up for that day, or as soon as the daytime starts, you could just sprint to the Black Forest and start mining straight away, but I would recommend leaving as soon as it gets close to nighttime. Or if you feel confident in fighting the Grey Dwarfs, I'm fairly confident fighting them. Oh, there's another shaman. You can tell by his green eyes and his antlers. He does kind of follow you with his animation when he does his forward spray, but once he's actually started shooting it out, it won't follow you. Like, the actual attack itself won't follow you, it's just his animation following you, because that's the direction you're facing, so don't worry too much about him being able to hit you with it. Again, the damage isn't too high. But yeah, if you're pretty confident in fighting them, you can mine at nighttime like I'm doing now, although I do have to apologise for the darkness. It is obviously nighttime and dark as heck, so it might not be easy to see. But I just wanted to grab a few bits of copper to get started so we could make the cart and hopefully start making progress towards the pickaxe and everything else. But once we've made the cart, we will probably do a fairly large farming session in terms of gathering as much copper and tin as we possibly can, just so that we don't have to come back over and over again and try and get through the Black Forest as speedily as possible, especially now that we've found burial chambers and settling cores. We will want to go through some more of them, so when we go exploring north again, I will try and find more burial chambers, and I will farm as much of those as possible. We are going to need a lot of the settling cores, as I've mentioned several times. But yeah, mining at nighttime, definitely a big no-no from me if you're new to the game. It's very, very dangerous, unless of course you want to farm a lot of wood and wall yourself off. So you could build a wooden stake wall around the copper node that you're mining, and that would prevent a lot of Grey Dwarfs from being able to get to you, but it's quite a large risk doing it at nighttime, it really is. So I'd probably recommend just sleep until daytime and then come back, or once we've gotten a bit further into it, I can show you another method which you can avoid nighttime mining altogether. Yeah, now we've gathered a few small pieces of copper, we are going to head back to camp. We didn't need too many, it was just enough so that we could make a bronze bar to get the nails to actually make the cart. That's the whole reason why I came here. We'll get a couple more bits of copper and bronze as well, but yeah, it's mainly for the nails is the reason why we're here right now. We are just going to quickly pop back to camp. Luckily enough, it isn't that far, so it's a really short trip back. Here we are, back home after another successful foray to grab some ore. Let's just gather up the coal, dump it in the chest with the ores and the settling cores, although we're probably going to stick up we might do another charcoal kiln or another smelter at some point. Let's just stick some more wood in the kiln to get some more charcoal going whilst we're in bed. Might even stick some of the tin on actually, or some of the copper, just to get it started whilst we're sleeping. It is now night time. But obviously we just need to kind of dump our inventory for the time being, just kind of get everything put away and organised. Got our chest of forest goods, and leave those there for now. Things will get moved around yet again once we get to actually building our crafting room and having dedicated chests for certain things. We're going to move our valuables out of this chest, put the heads in there as we're getting quite a few heads and we need the space for them. But yeah, we're going to have to put up another chest for these valuables. I prefer keeping valuables to one side anyway, as when we get to finding the merchant we're going to need to grab all of them and sell them, so yeah. One thing we might do is build a little base by the merchant once we've found him, and then we can kind of store all our valuables there rather than having to come home every time we want to sell them. Let's just grab some wood and we'll stick another chest down. Close the door so none of the little nasties try and walk in, although you might have noticed when we're stood next to the kiln, as it's working away with the wood we've put in there, it is actually producing heat, and it does actually say that we're stood near a fire. So I think even if we were to sit down, we might even get the rested buff as well. So those two do act as a heat source and a light source, so it's another good benefit to them. Let's just dump all of our valuables in there. Perfect. What else do we need to do? Might as well repair our items, make sure we're all repaired up, ready to go. I'm going to have to head back out very shortly. Oh, apparently we can't. Oh, okay. It's daytime. What perfect timing that was. We pretty much mined through the entire evening. Oops. I wasn't expecting to do that. Although we did leave it quite late in the day before we headed out there, so yeah, that was a bit of a poor timing, I would probably say. That's a shame. I couldn't show you the night skipping when it comes to smelting and stuff like that, but oh well. Okay, so with using your smelter, you have 3 slots. You have the slot on the front, this circular slot on the side, which takes your ore. You can see 0 to 10, so you can stick 10 of the copper ore in there. You can stick all 10 in at once. And then on the other side is a rectangular slot for the coal, 0 of 20. So there you go, 20 coal for 10 ore. That's how I worked it out. And then when we've got the coal in there, you can see that the heat, or the little vent out the front, that is where the bars will be produced. And obviously you'll hear a bit of a metallic sound coming from it. Let's just stick some more wood in there, the rest of what we've got. And well, yeah, we just need to leave it now. Now, smelting bars does take longer than than making coal, so just gonna have a bit of a sit down and wait for our first bar to be produced, and then it should give us a whole bunch of recipes and stuff based on the bar. There it is. There's our shiny brown or orange kind of copper bar. There we go. We now have copper, and we can build our forge. So yes, that was the thing that I forgot about before. Before we can even make the cart, we need 6 bits of copper in order to make the forge. We also need 4 coal, 4 stone, and 10 wood. And obviously a crafting table, and this is what the forge looks like. It's a kind of a smaller version of the crafting table, but it is for metalworking, so we do desperately need it. And it will come with its own upgrades as well, like anvils and stuff like that, so we will have to have one of those put down. You will also have specific items and things you can build around your base that that require the forge itself to be nearby. So the forge has the same kind of white circular area around it, like the building area, so that's something else you're going to have to remember when you're using that. And I think whilst these items are smelting and turning into coal, I think this is where we will end today's episode. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.